Want to learn about Venezuela? I'm getting the board. Whoever said teaching wasn't physical? All right, people want to know about what's going on between the United States and Venezuela, but in order to understand what's going on today, you need to understand what has gone on before. That's why history is so important, guys. Come on. Venezuela and the U.S. I've decided to do this chronologically because I feel like doing history metaphorically difficult. Number one, pre-1998. Pre-1998, Venezuela had a huge oil supply, actually, biggest in the world, and the biggest stakeholder was a U.S. company called Exxon. Why is this important? Because of their huge oil supply in Venezuela, Exxon took it over. So the vast amount of profit, the percentage of profit, went to the U.S. and Venezuela as a country got next to nothing. And because of this, their economy started to fail. And as their economy started to fail, guess what? A dictator waiting in the wings wanted to jump in and save themselves from God knows who. Oh, from the United States. How do I get steak and oil companies is taking over the entire world? Number two, 1998. That's not right. I hate it when I can't write numbers properly. Hugo Chavez was a democratically elected president of Venezuela. Now, once he got in, again I say democratically, he started to push towards authoritarianism, and he started reducing the checks and balances of the democratic system. Side point, does that remind you of anybody else? He also started to rewrite the Constitution to solidify his dictatorial power. Parallels are really uncanny. In 2002, a woman named Maria Machado, ignore how I said that, but keep that name locked in your head because she's going to be important later, created an organization called SUMAT in order to overthrow the Chavez government. Psst, who do you think was funding her operation? You guessed it. George W. Bush, President of the United States at the time, was funding her through the National Endowment of Democracy. You know what? People just make up names to mean anything nowadays. So through this National Endowment for Democracy, the United States funded Machado in order to overthrow Chavez. And when it didn't work, Bush said, "Not my problem, I didn't know anything about it." And she was eliminated from all political life going forward. And then, in 2002, Bush was a very busy guy. Number four, in 2007, Chavez, reinvigorated with power and an authoritarian regime, decides to nationalize Venezuelan oil. Ruh-roh. That meant that Venezuela took all of Exxon's money, all their oil, and all their access to oil, and shifted the lion's share of profits back to Venezuela and left Exxon, well, not a lot of money. P.S. Exxon then sued and won $1.4 billion in a claim. But what kind of international police force are we going to get for Venezuela to be forced to pay Exxon? None. After that huge shift of economic power, Venezuelan oil dropped from 3 million barrels a day way down to 700,000 barrels a day due to corruption and, let's be honest, informal sanctions put on them by the United States because they just stole a bunch of their money from corporations. Stole might be a U.S. word, considering the oil was on Venezuelan land and considered a Venezuelan resource, but who's counting? The U.S. really does imperialism out of 10, don't they? Ooh, new chalk. Number five, a guy named Madero, used to be the VP of Chavez, takes over, and he starts building an even stronger authoritarian government. I forgot the year. 2013. Obama calls the drug cartel and this particular regime a threat to democracy and national security of the United States. That's then followed by Trump putting on economic sanctions in 2017. Are you with me so far? This is about to get interesting. By interesting, I mean even more corrupt. 2025. I brought you right up to the present. Maria Machado, remember I told you to remember that name, wins the Nobel Peace Prize. And who does she dedicate it to? None other than Donald Trump. And it's at this point that Donald Trump begins attacking boats, Venezuelan boats, calling them drug cartels, talking about revitalizing and restoring democracy to Venezuela, and talking about how they're a threat to national security. And guess what? The U.S. got to go in and save some people. Oh, and P.S. Donald Trump wants his oil back. It's the ending that's really going to get you. The big question about why Donald Trump is doing this is why, and I think the answer is going to surprise you a little bit. Number one, he is going to claim that he is going to liberate Venezuela. Guys, always be careful when the United States of America liberates anything, because usually it means they're going to take it. And he's going to install Maria as the president, formally excommunicated from all political life, but she's going to serve a purpose. Number two, Machado will then give oil rights back to, you guessed it, Exxon. 80% goes to them, 20% back to Venezuela. Everybody's happy and a new power is installed, but that's not the only reason this is happening. This last one's going to blow you away. Number three. Is it about oil? Absolutely. They want control of the world's biggest oil supply, but that's not the full answer. What the real answer is U.S. currency rates. Follow along, this gets tricky. Oil has always been traded in U.S. dollars, called petrol. And what that has served the United States in doing is solidifying, is stabilizing, is increasing U.S. dollars. Because if anybody wants to buy oil anywhere in the world, they have to use U.S. currency. It artificially inflates the price of the U.S. dollar and stabilizes the U.S. economy. This is the real problem. Because what Trump and the United States is really afraid of are BRICS nations. What are they? They are nations, they are countries that have gotten together and are starting to trade without the United States, especially oil, and not use the U.S. currency as their trading denomination. And that is going to possibly submarine the U.S. economy. So is it about oil? Sure, but what really it's about is about the United States being able to control the entire market of trade when it comes to oil, thus inflating and propping up the U.S. economy. So when somebody says, is it about the oil? Say, sure, but that's just a vehicle for them to control everything else.